Hello, my name is Daniel. Welcome to my channel, and today I am coming to you from the floor because that is what I deserve. And I have just noticed that there's cat vomit on the floor, and that is just fitting as a punishment because I today have to confess that I have failed the 100 book challenge, the Read What You Own challenge, where I was trying to read 100 books that I previously owned before I bought anything new. I had created a whole bunch of personal rules for this quest, and that involved like a break where I took like a Rumspringa, where I'm like, this is a great idea. I'm going to sort of wean myself off of my addiction of buying books because I buy more than I can read. Like, I buy much faster than I can read. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to be buying books for a while, but in case something comes up that I absolutely must buy, and I should, just allow myself one break and get that item. And I did that only like a week or two ago, where I had my Rumspringa. I found a whole bunch of like old pulp books that I wanted. The Spider in this case, which if look at my previous video about Rumspringa, I'm sure it wasn't that long ago, and you can see those. But yeah. Apparently, I learned a little something about myself from this challenge, and that is, with things that I am personally addicted to, I cannot take just like a small dose of that addiction and expect that not to snowball. So here I thought I was being very clever and incorporating like an out for me, a one and done, one hall pass, if you will, from my challenge. No, I can't do that. My willpower is not strong enough to allow that, and if it were strong enough to allow that, then I wouldn't need it in the first place. So I had bought some books. So yeah, I think, though, that this challenge was a positive thing for me. I did finish 25 that I owned previously, the last being Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. I wanted to read this for a while, and during my Rumspringa, I got a much nicer reading copy of it than the PBS tie-in, but this was like the beginning of the end for me, and this, among my other acquisitions, just sort of went pleh, and my willpower just died, and I bought books that I wanted. Another thing that I should know if I ever take this challenge again, which I'm not planning on in the near future, because I don't like failing publicly, and I should work on myself before I try doing something like that again. Though, I mean, it was a good incentive. The fact that I have to make this video and confess to you that I did not complete my challenge. But yeah, don't start collecting. If you're gonna do a break, this is a note for myself for the future. So don't start collecting like 2 volumes of many that you want to collect in the near future if you see a good deal. So another thing I bought in my Rumspringa were 2 books from the Great Books of the Western World series, and now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Those were my real downfall. I have 11 now, where I started my Rumspringa with 2, and so you can see how many I purchased since then. Turns out they're real cheap if you want to Frankenstein your own set together. That's what I plan on doing. I wanted these for a while, but like the cost of getting a set was like hundreds of dollars, and apparently it's really easy to Frankenstein together. I've noticed. So I am going to continue piecing that together because one thing I did learn is also, beyond the don't start collecting a set when you can't continue collecting, I also learned that from this whole challenge is that I'm a lot more I'm trying to think of a word that doesn't sound bad. I'm much more thoughtful about what I want to add to my collection. I plan a little bit better for the books that I do buy. Before I started the challenge, like if it was a good deal and I had any vague interest in it because it was like $1 or $2, I would just buy it. I really am trying to build my library with intention now. I want to distill it down to just books that I love, or have like some useful purpose to me. So these are things that I really knew I really wanted for a long time. And so I don't really feel bad collecting them, even though I did fail the challenge. Like, I'm not heartbroken that I failed the challenge, other than the fact that it's like a little embarrassing where I'm like, I'm going to do this. Just kidding. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't see myself doing it again this year. When November comes around again, I'm sure people are going to renew it. I mean, heck, Ollie finished his challenge from the channel Criminale. He finished his challenge like within a few months and started doing it again. So he's already lapping us, and like, I just don't read that fast. And if I were to do so, it would be at the detriment of the other things I enjoy doing. So, anyways, this is long and rambly, but I do want to talk a little bit about Brideshead Revisited. This is a book I read for the Banned Books Project. I think this was banned in some prison system. I didn't really come here today to talk about like the whole Banned Books Project, so I can't remember. This is very soft banned. It wasn't banned very many places, but I think it had more to do with like the homosexual undertones of the novel, though it's not very overpowering. I was expecting it to be a lot more of a presence to the story, but really it's just one piece of it. The story is about a man who is like going to college for the first time, finds a young man that he just becomes attracted to, and it's not really ever specified that it is like a sexual attraction, but he does fall in love with Sebastian, and he meets his family, and Sebastian just has a lot of issues, one of them being severe alcoholism. He's also kind of like permanently stuck in his youth. Like, he carries around a teddy bear in college and stuff, and the whole point of the story is that Charles is trying to get to know him. He goes to his home in Brideshead, and he sort of develops a relationship with his entire family. And really the book is kind of about how everything is sort of degrading from like the glory days into this culminates during World War II. So like just Europe just declines, and everyone as they grow older just decline. There's a lot of things. This book took me like a week to read, which is unusual. It's not a very thick thing, but a lot about this book was very hard-hitting to me because I've had similar relationships where I got to see like the decline of a very, very close friend falling to like alcoholism and drugs as they try to escape, and like being pretty on intimate terms with their family, and like being caught like in that in-between of trying to deal with it, and ultimately you kind of have to pick a side, though you really don't want to. And this book, he falls in love with that guy's sister, and the second half of the book is pretty much has nothing to do with Sebastian at all, but it's just similar things where everything's just falling apart, and people being disillusioned by adulthood. Part of my reason for struggling to get through this in a timely manner is also I've just had some pretty severe weather-related migraines, and like this is not the book to make you feel better. Though it is a beautiful book, I really enjoyed it, but I'm doing it a disservice by trying to talk about it in the context of all this other stuff, like my failure. Maybe it's thematically accurate, but this was the 25th book I read for the Read What You Own challenge, and after that I failed. I did read another book after that, but after I failed the challenge, and I can't remember the name of it. So I read this book, which was a zombie book. It's like the third in the series about a zombie outbreak that happens when these hurricanes hit Texas really hard, and a bunch of chemicals get released into flesh eaters. That's what it was, flesh eaters. All these chemicals get released into the water, and due to people's exposure to it, people being injured, and then like exposed to the chemicals in this water, the first zombies are born. This is a prequel to a series. There were two in the series before there that sort of take place long after the infection. The first book, which is called Dead City, takes place in like all the span of one day, and then the second book takes place like almost, I think it was years after the outbreak, and like people surviving, a la The Walking Dead. But for zombie shows and movies, like it's really enjoyable to see the initial outbreak. It always is, and in this case, the book was really interesting. Not only because it was just constant action throughout, so like there was not really any dull moments, but just the terrain with zombies and like really deep, like neck high or even higher water, and like when that water starts to like recede, then the zombies become more of a problem. But then if the water's high, you're dealing with massive flooding. It was an interesting concept, and I really liked it. So that was cool. But some things that I purchased along with these great books of the Western canon. I also got A History of English Literature, revised by F.B. Millett. I can't remember who the original author was. This is the 1956 edition, so nothing but the latest. William Vaughn Moody and Robert Morse Lovett. And this is the 7th edition of this, and I just tore the page. But Charles Scribner's Sons, New York. This is just an overview of English literature throughout the years. This cost me very, very little, but I want to read some more overviews about the Western canon to get an idea of like, I want to read through the canon. It's something I'm interested in doing to become more well versed in it. But I just want to, kind of like with history, I just want an overview of like what happened from A to B. And speaking of that, another book I got in regards to that is Reflective, The People's Chronology. And this is literally like from, alright, that's a little, from like 3 million BC, but really not much is known about that time, so more of the 3400 BC to present day whenever this was released. So yeah, the 1990s. It's just like a chronology year by year of what happened where. I mean, this has to be this is a large book, but it has to be a very broad and very non-detailed description of American history. There are more places in the world than America. World history. But like, for me, like, I have a really bad sense of the chronology of things. I know in vague terms when things happen, but history was never my strong suit. So, like, I don't have the foundation to know, this is like ancient Greek and Roman and Middle Ages and whatnot, but what happened and who are the figures within those time periods, like, it's just not all there for me. I'm kind of a new student to history. So this will give me an idea of, like, jumping off points when I want to like learn about a time period. I just want jumping off points, and this is perfect for this. So I was really excited to find that for like $1. 3 more books. One is something I got for June on the Range. That's the Oxbow Incident by Walter Van Tilburg Clark. This is a classic of the Western stories. I think the movie might have been a little more popular than this book. I am not sure, but I wanted to read it, and this is something I'm going to be saving for June on the Range, but I'm happy to have it. I also finally was able to find the copy of this book that I wanted. I had read all of these 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, before I started a BookTube channel. And that was the Gulag Archipelago. And finally, I found the 3rd volume in the edition that I was trying to get. This is like the first paperback edition for these. This is the 3rd volume in the Gulag Archipelago. I had the first 2 for the longest time, Gulag Archipelago and Gulag Archipelago 2. That's really hard for me to say fast, but I am also like not an enunciator. So I'm just I've noticed a lot more and more that I cannot pronounce words very well. And I never noticed when I wasn't recording myself, but now that I do, I'm very hyper-conscious about it. But The Gulag Archipelago by Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn. Not bad. But yeah, I finally found Volume 3. This one has always been like way more expensive in this edition, and probably just because the print run was really low compared to the first 2 volumes. But now I have all 3. I'm really happy to have it. I think the last time I read through it, it was on audiobook, because I just did not have that 3rd volume. Finally, something I got for Rocket Summer. Honestly, I didn't get it for Rocket Summer, but I was delighted to find out that it qualifies, and that is The Legion of Space by Jack Williamson. And on this cover, this is what drew me to it, because this cover's awesome, for one thing. But I think if you're into Dungeons and Dragons at all, this is our first proto-example of a Grell. On this is, I think, what they call the Medusa. But the image was strikingly similar to this monster in Dungeons and Dragons called a Grell. And this was found in the Fiend Folio, which was published in, I believe, 1979. At least that's the only copyright date I could find based on the introduction in Cambridge, England. But this cover of this book right here, this old timescape, was 1977. And this image is just a little too close to that image of the Grell, where I'm like, I'm sure someone saw this cover and thought, that looks awesome. And I agree, it does. This is one of my favorite monsters in D&D. At least the Grell version. I don't know anything about the Medusa yet. But this book was originally written in 1935? Yeah, 1935, and then reprinted a number of times. So this is some, like, old Golden Age science fiction. So I can't wait to get to it. But that's it. That's my confession. Well, I did fail. It wasn't completely for nothing. I am a little more circumspect about the books I am allowing to enter the collection. So that's good. And I have also decided to let a little bit more go to make room for these books. One of the first things that happened when I told my wife that I failed my challenge, she's like, you can go right back on it. And yes, but I'm not going to. And she's like, we're going to need to convert the garage into like a library. And that would be a great idea, but my garage is currently exposed to all the elements and all of the rodents, so I think that's just where it would end up being like a book graveyard if I were to do so. And our basement, too moist. And I use that word directly because it is a gross word, and that is a gross basement. So that's not going to happen. It even has like earthen floors in it. So I'm just going to have to get digital copies of the books that I feel okay digitizing and not seeing on the shelf. There's some things I've been holding on to because I want to maybe read it one day. I might let those go to make room for the books that I really want. But it was a good try. I don't feel too terrible about it because I'm starting to collect the books that I want. These are all the first edition, though I don't really give a crap about the printing of these great books from the Britannica Great Books series. There is like a second printing that I'm not going to get the books from because they changed the authors in the novels. They expanded, I think, to 60 volumes, but each volume represents a difference. You can't really mix and match them. And I'm not going to get the really tan versions of these that look like they were bound in human flesh. So that's my only stipulations. But beyond this, like, I don't care if it's like the 33rd printing or the 15th printing. These ones are a little bit newer that have like the black down here and the color variants on this strip. Whereas like the color variants on the older ones are down here. That doesn't bother me. That looks fine, but if like you were to get that faux leather tan one, I think it would look kind of weird, so I'm going to avoid that if I can. But I'm already like 1/5 through collecting them all. The first 3 volumes are like the Synopticon, which is just like an index based on subject matter. Those are going to be like the last things I collect because it's not really the literature itself. But so there's like 51 volumes I want to collect, really. And I have like, 11? So I'm doing really well. I'm just going to do it over time. I don't think I've spent more than $5 or maybe $6 on any of these volumes. So it's worthwhile to me. So that's my failure. I hope you guys who are still on the challenge are doing well. Stay strong, but I also have noticed that a lot of us have been dropping out around this mark. I don't know if it's like the number of months that have gone by or if it's just the number 25. Just saw a video today of Roy from Roy Reads Anything, who dropped off at the 27 mark. So we're roughly equivalent. So yeah, that's it. I hope you have a good one. I will talk to you later. Bye.